music they call that calico tuning, where the third
or
is
Black Mountain
or
Rag.
Black Mountain Rag,
That's another one. And actually, Vari's played that. Played that. He played a lot of American songs. I didn't know they were American songs back then.
Well,
They were
right.
just,
He might not have either.
But then at the same time, I want to just say that Cajun music is American music.
It is American.
Yeah, it is American
It's
music.
also
So,
old time music.
Right, it's old time, and it just is part of the thing. But
like,
they
wake
were
up.
influenced from outside
Join the
of
nation,
South
people.
Louisiana as well. And like Dewey did a song in this tuning.
Indiana. Yeah. That's good. The fiddlesticks.
Hey kid, go grab 2 of those straws. Like the wooden straws, I think it's good. It's like those wooden straws.
Yeah.
So if you ever, a lot of times you'll see Cajun bands where one of the musicians will go up and like tap on the strings while the other one is playing. They call it fiddlesticks.
Right.
This tuning lends itself really well to that
Yeah.
because it's a very resonant, like open tuning, so the sticks can like be tapping. I was gonna try to do it, but Kit's too dang
Too late.
slow.
You have some
Still looking.
Too late.
But anyway, we'll come back to Darren in a minute and talk some more with him. But I'd like to introduce Mr. Mitch Riggett right here.
Thank you. So I started playing the fiddle. I was about the same age, like 14, and there weren't many young fiddle players back then. It was like me and Bo Thomas kind of started at the same time, but Bo was really into more the swing style of Cajun fiddling. They have so many different styles of Cajun fiddling.
People don't understand that.
I know, there's so
It's
many.
not just Cajun fiddle. There's a
Yeah.
zillion styles within the genre.
So many, and I guess the way I tend to talk about it, I talk about the players. So like I play in this style, So there's you can kind of base it on more of the players than an actual naming a style, But probably the person who influenced me the most was Dennis McGee. That's what made me want to play the fiddle. And my dad was really into Cajun music, and I was like typical teenager. I was into rock and roll, and I played guitar and stuff. But I never forget, my dad brought home this record. He was collecting Cajun records, and he brought home this record. And I remember the cover looked really crazy. It looked like these old guys with their pants like up to here, and they were holding fiddles like really strange. And even the cover was all faded and weird, And I thought, oh my God. And my dad put it on. As soon as I heard it, I went in the room and I was like, what is that? And he was like, man, and even my father, he was like, man, that's pretty hardcore stuff, huh? And it was like just so edgy and this crazy sound.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love music that's like, I love music that aggravates most people. That's the kind of music I love. So
Austin
I was
Beats
like, I love that. And my dad was like, man, I'll get you some fiddle lessons. Let's hook you up. So I had to study. There were no fiddle teachers back then. That's the thing. I was talking to Jesse this morning about that because Jesse plays some fiddle too. And if you're a Cajun or Creole, if you wanted to play fiddle, you could go sit with an old master and watch him or listen to him play, but they weren't going to break
They
it
don't
down.
tell you what it is.
They weren't going to break
This
it
guy
down.
Jay plays fiddle?
Yes! Wherever he is. I thought I saw him
What?
back there. Yeah.
I gotta hear this.
He said he started playing when he was about 17.
What?
I never heard of
Dude,
it.
I wanna hear this.
Why isn't he up here?
I don't know.
Are you serious? Dude, this is gonna be scary.
But but to your point, when I'm a little older, when I wanted to take lessons, I had to go to Elaine Flannery, who was Michael.
That's right. Yeah.
But she didn't teach me a lick of
Yeah,
Cajun
she was totally classical. Yeah, and the same thing. I took Suzuki violin lessons from they had a conservatory in Lafayette, and they taught Suzuki. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I went. The place to go if you wanted to learn, you'd go to Mark Savoy's Jam. That was the place because all the old guys would show up, And so I started going there, and there was this fiddler I never forgot. I mean, he looked like a character from The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings or something. And his name was Adner Artigo, and he looked like this dwarf or something. his face looked like an old dried up sweet potato. And I found out later he was a sweet potato farmer. But he had I think he spent too much time with sweet potatoes.
God damn.
But he
Oh man.
he was a character. He made his own violins, and he had this black violin that he had put just like shoe polish on, you know. And he used to always bring boudin to Mark's jam. And I never forget one time Mark was just playing with him, you know, but boy, it pissed him off. He said, Mark hollowed out at the jam. He said, "Hey y'all, did anybody try some of Adner's possum boudin yet?"
Possum boudin.
And nobody ever touched his boudin.
Damn.
But I learned a lot from him. He showed. I remember the first thing he showed me that I had never heard. I'd heard it on records, but never saw it. And I was studying Suzuki, so I was like, you know, like you know, that kind of thing. And then I went to Adner's house, and he did this. I don't forget, he went.
He's using one finger.
Yeah,
Just-
that's
just
one
sliding
finger.
one finger.
So that's where you get that from?
That's where I got it from.
Ah.
And the reason he only had one finger is because he got stung by this catfish. He was fishing one night, and he caught this fish. I was telling the other crew, and he used to fish on the banks of this wicked river called the Atchafalaya River. I mean, if you fall in this river, you're gone.
Your ass gone.
And he'd go at night. He would go at night. He'd bring a little lantern, and he fought with this giant catfish for like hours. Finally got it up on the bank, and they were wrestling, and the fish stung him in his finger. And then he lost the fish. The fish bounced down.
Oh,
and
that
went back.
sucks.
And he was so mad. He went home and he went straight to bed. He just like jumped in bed with all his clothes on, and he went to bed with his hands like this, like like two fists, like he wanted to fight somebody. And the problem with that, when he woke up the next morning, his fingers that where the poison had gone in totally froze. So he only had that one or two fingers that he could play the fiddle with.
Wow.
But what was cool, it
Lucky
gave him
he
this
lived.
awesome style, you know. And he almost played everything modal, you know, because he couldn't quite hit the right, you know, the right pitch. But I mean, I don't know, maybe it's what he wanted anyway, you know. So he had a really cool style. So since I'm talking about him so much, why don't I play one of his tunes?
I think
Yeah.
So he had
It's Adner Artigo.
Adner Artigo. So
Adner? Or Adner?
yeah, Adner with a D.
Adner with a D,
Yeah,
okay.
he would get so mad.
I
we'd go-
remember him, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he loved your dad. He loved the jam. He would get so mad. We'd go to the mailboxes. I'd spend a lot of time with him, and he'd be like, "God damn it, they did it again." I said, "What?" He said, "Look, they put little Abner." They put Abner instead of Adner. He gets so mad. He said, "I'm not little Abner. I'm Adner." So anyway, he was a real character. Oh my God. So this was a polka that his father was a fiddle player and his grandfather was a fiddle player, and they would play house dances and stuff in like, you know, the 30s and stuff. So this is what his family polka. So it was called Artigo's polka. So let's see, I haven't played it in a while, but so it goes.
So just for like
Okay.
a little bit of background, Mitch was talking about my dad's jam session, which still happens every Saturday morning at his music store in Eunice. And the reason he started up this jam was so that the old timers that no one was appreciating back at this moment, all the old guys that, you know, they weren't the hot stuff anymore, so they had no place that they could go and play and be recognized. So Dad just opened up his music store on Saturday mornings just so that those guys could just come in and play. And it
Yeah.
became this kind of mecca for a lot of
I
young people.
have to say, I would not be sitting right here if it wasn't for that
I
jam.
grew up playing in that.
I
that's
remember
how
you
started.
running around as a little kid.
Yeah.
Joel, quit running!
It's true. But you know, like people like Dennis McGee were not allowed. Dennis wasn't allowed to play his fiddle in his house. He's like the most famous Cajun fiddle player, and his
Who
wife.
made that rule?
His wife would not let him play his fiddle in his house, so he'd come to my dad's jam session
That's on the
to
back
play
porch
his
itself.
fiddle. And so that's like, I mean, that's definitely me and a whole bunch of my friends got our start in there. But anyway, right here in the middle is Mr. Cedric Watson, y'all. I'll let
How
him
y'all doing?
tell you about himself.
Yeah. So I'm from a whole nother planet, from from South Louisiana. It's like not really though, but I'm from the other side over there in Texas, Southeast Texas. I grew up in a town called San Felipe, Texas. About 740 people, but when I was growing up, it was probably like 600 and whatever. But eventually, by hearing through my family Zydeco music, like the more modern style, what you would know, like Keith Frank and Bojack and all that. My cousin Bonton Mickey plays Zydeco. That's what led me to play the traditional music, like what these guys here play. I met them through a really good friend of mine. Most of y'all I met because of Ed Poulard and J.B. Adams. But it was through Beausoleil that I got into traditional music because they had an album where they featured Cannery Fontenot on there. And that's how I got into Creole fiddle. Because at that time, whenever I was like hearing Zydeco, like the kind that I heard, like John Delafosse, Bouzou, Bojack, you know, the more modern compared to like what Cannery played. I didn't know that a lot of the really Creole traditions were coming from these guys was before these ones that I knew already. You know what I mean? So whenever I heard about Cannery and Bebe Carrière and all them, that's what basically got me into it, the whole like traditional music. So Mitch, you remember it when I was like a teenager and stuff, like, you know, I was in high school, so I'd come over to your shop.
I have to say this story. Cedric, he's so amazing. He came over to my shop and he had his fiddle, and he had just got to Louisiana and he was going to live there, and he had his fiddle tuned in fourths like a guitar.
Yeah,
Because
that's right. That's how I
he never
learned.
had a fiddle lesson yet. But then he started playing like the most amazing music. I was blown away. He was playing like Beausoleil, Michael Bussé style, but the fiddle was tuned in fourths, which is, I don't know how he even did that.
Oh, yeah. I just remember my grandma got me a fiddle because she wanted me to be a guitarist. So I was like, I want a fiddle. She's like, well, I want you to play guitar. So she got me a damn guitar, and I want to hear you play some blues. So I started playing like this blues and singing like Amazing Grace and everything you could think of is like simple. So I showed just to like kind of like show her that I can learn like 10 songs or whatever. Then she finally found me a fiddle. It was a Palatino, and this thing like called Musician Friend. So I remember every day I run to the post office like, did my fiddle come in yet? And the lady's like, didn't come in yet. And one day it did. So I went home with it and I just sat on the porch. I sat there like for hours, y'all, on the porch. I didn't care if the sun was shining in my face and killing me. And I just tuned it like a guitar. I tuned it like that. So that's the way I learned. You know? And then I had to start all over. After like 6 to 8 months of learning songs on the fiddle, I wasn't even playing fiddle. It was like a fiddle body tuned like a guitar.
But then you learn it so fast.
Yeah.
You learn it so
But it's because of being
I met
around
Cedric, he was
everybody
like,
playing.
he was taking lessons, and then at Augusta, I think, Cedric
Yep,
was
that's
there
right.
taking lessons, and the next year he was like on faculty teaching.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, the truth is, like, I knew about like freaking 25 songs or 30 songs, but I pretend like I only knew 5 because I had someone whisper in my ear and tell me this: just play these same songs. I guarantee it'll work out. I was like, okay, well, I'll just play these same old. I ain't gonna tell who, but I had a few spirits of the ancestors tell me some things in the ears. But so I just played your Tezo Ball and La Porte Don Arriere and all that stuff like that, and a good old Pajon Vieux and the Mardi Gras song. Those are my favorites. But other than that, I play a lot of tunes I normally wasn't gonna play.
But you write a lot of songs too.
And I wrote a bunch of tunes too. That's right. A lot of my influence was coming from like listening to Caribbean music. Bob Goffred, there he is right there. He actually helped me a lot too, getting into Creole music from other places like the Antilles and places like that Louisiana actually was a part of back in the old days. Like they traded, produce and livestock with these places, like Trinidad. That's why we have these Barbados. That's why we have these sheep called Bobby-Doe, because the truth is they're Barbados strand of sheep that they were getting from Barbados. You see? So all these styles with triangle and scratchy instruments and accordions and fiddle, that's what influences me the most, but mainly from Caribbean and Afro side of the culture, So that's why I got into old Creole fiddle music.
You wanna play us some?
And now I'm gonna play all 10. This song's called Deacon Jones. Y'all might know it as, I'm not gonna sing the words because it's pretty bad, but it's not bad, but it's not for like children.
She's fine.
No, I'm not singing this one. You don't want to hear this one, but because I'll start making words up too, and it gets worse. But this song is what they know is Can Ray's One Step. Can Ray Fontenot. They know this song is Can Ray One Step. That's where the record label put it. It was actually Deacon Jones. It goes like this.
I didn't know that was it. All right, y'all. So I'd like to introduce right here to my left. This is Miss Kelly Jones, and Kel comes from right outside of Raleigh, North Carolina, and she came to Louisiana around 2006, I think, and she was already playing Cajun music. She was already playing a lot of interesting stuff, and kind of just fell right into the scene, and has kind of taken over. I mean, just become a really great Cajun fiddle player, and plays with a whole lot of bands and does a lot of stuff. I'll let her tell you more about it, but this is Miss Kelly Jones right here. Take it over, Kel.
I don't know about taking over, but but yeah. So I grew up in North Carolina. My dad plays old time music, and I kind of grew up going around to festivals with him, my brother, and I, and kind of knew, I guess, about Cajun music through people like Dirk and Christine, and I got to see them at old time festivals every now and then. But I didn't really get into it actually until my dad started teaching at this camp, Ashokan, and I mean, I started playing around like 13 or 14, I guess. 14, I don't know. But actually, I think one of my first Cajun fiddle classes that was with Mitch at Ashokan.
Wow.
Maybe, I think so. I mean, so they were always there at Ashokan for the years that I was there. So him and Randy, I don't know. I just got really into it, and then I remember going home like the first time I went to Ashokan, I'd be like, hey, I'd really like to learn some more like Cajun tunes. Like I really enjoyed that fiddle style. My dad's like, oh well, my dad's a kind of not a hoarder, but of records and books, and he's like, oh, are you interested in it? Well, I think I have some records, and he just pulled out the Dennis McGee record, and some other that Lomax record with the dance hall picture, and then Anne's book, and he's like, well, here, and I was just like, oh, okay, and I got really into that, and I don't know, but I was also playing some old time, and then I graduated high school and was just interested in Lafayette. I went actually Joel and Josh and them were recording a record in the house that I moved into, and so it was just kind of like dove in head first, not really on purpose, but kind of. But it just kind of like happened, and everybody was like living around each other. There were like Chaz and Eric and Wilson. They were all living by the Blue Moon, and like it was just like I don't know. There was just a constant.
But you came to
music.
Louisiana already like playing Cajun fiddle.
Yeah,
I
I
thought
had
like
a-
you were playing a lot of this Wade Frugier tunes.
Yeah, I
which is
really
so
got
unique.
I got really into Wade Frugier.
Wade Frugier was an old fiddle player from Eunice that I got to spend a lot of time with as a young man. But Kel showed up playing these really neat
Yeah,
tunes
I
with
had
us.
a good friend, Matt Haney, who had just moved to Raleigh, and he wanted to get together with my dad and do some get some mandolin tips. And my dad was like, he knew he played Cajun fiddle, and he was like, well, yeah, we'll come over and I'll show you some mandolin stuff if you'll show my daughter some Cajun stuff. And so we would get together and he got me really into Wade Frugier, and we would just get together and play those Wade tunes, and yeah, it was
Cool.
so yeah, Mitch and Matt, and that was my kind of dive in, I guess. But and yeah, then I just haven't stopped playing ever since.
What was you gonna play for?
I don't know.
Play Wade.
Play with
Yeah,
me.
we can go. I haven't really listened to this in a while. What is that?
Like a gumbo.
Yeah, but he called it something else. The shoe pick ball?
It's yeah.
I'll try that one. It's been a while. Okay.
Look out, Wade.
Yeah.
It sounds just like
Or
Wade.
yeah.
So that's Miss Kelly Jones. My name is Joel Salva. I come from Eunice, and I have a very similar story to
You come
all
from
of these
Savoy.
guys. I started around the same age, 12, 13-ish. Playing fiddle. My dad has this jam session on Saturday mornings, and before I started playing music, me and my siblings, Wilson and I, and some of our friends or whatever, on Saturday mornings would just kind of be running around, like Mitch said, just kind of causing chaos, just playing, just as kids playing. There was all this awesome Cajun music happening, but we were just being kids, just running around, being wild. And eventually, we both, Wilson and I, and all of my sisters too, kind of got interested in music and started participating in the jam. But my dad was the only kind of sternness that we ever had about music was that at the jam session, and if we could hang out and participate and do whatever, but it was always about the old timers. So as kids, we learned this very like deep respect for the older generation. So like, if we wanted to play in the jam session, we had to sit way off in the background and just like follow along. You know, it's never about like, here's my kid that can do this or something like, or that wants to learn. It's like always listen to these guys and like follow along and try to figure out what makes this. You know, and I think that was an amazing thing that my parents were able to convey to me as a young man playing music. And I got really, like Mitch said, he was playing rock and roll and stuff, and I started playing like kind of, you know, alternative and like punk music and stuff, and was doing this at the same time. I had a really like traditional Cajun band with my buddy Lindsay. We played two fiddles. We were really into Dennis McGee and Sadie Corville, that early fiddle duet sound, and just grew up as a normal person, you know, a normal teenager that was also playing Cajun fiddle. And
Well, what happened then?
it's hard to imagine. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. No, it was interesting because Cajun music, you know, you hear people talk about not everybody's heard the story. Like if you know something about Cajun music, you've heard that at some point people were punished for speaking French in school, right? A lot of you have probably heard this story. They were trying to kind of knock out the French language in Louisiana. They wanted people to Americanize. And this is after, you know, in the era of the World Wars, there was a strong patriotism movement for everyone, and it's the right thing. Everybody wanted to be American, you know, and so there's this whole movement in Louisiana. Everyone was becoming American. They were not going to be French people anymore in Louisiana. And so towns like Eunice, Eunice is on before the interstate system was built in the 60s, Eunice was on the major thoroughfare. So Eunice was one of the first towns to quickly Americanize, and a lot of those people gave up their French heritage. But my dad always fought that. He was in a rural area, and he was really against that. I mean, very strongly against that his entire life. But he found solace in a little town called Mamou, which is right north of my house, which is, you don't go to Mamou unless you're going to Mamou. It's not on the way to anywhere at all. I mean, but my dad found that the people there really respected and still really loved Cajun music. He met Reuben Reed and Paul Tate and these guys that were just like, they completely changed his. So this is my dad was born in 1940, so this is like in 1955 to the early 60s or something. And so check this out. Like I grew up 12 years old. I'm a kid, I'm going to school, and I'm interested in playing Cajun fiddle. And still, in 1992 or 93, that was the most uncool thing any kid could ever do. It was the most ridiculous thing that you could do. But I was into it, and my buddy Lindsay, like, we loved to just sit around playing fiddle. But in Eunice, that was just like horrible. But like 2 years later, I met a bunch of friends, a bunch of people from Mamou, and they were like, "Oh, you play Cajun music? That's awesome. We do too." And it was just like people like Jolie, who's here, her husband Lucius, and like all of a sudden these people my age, like these kind of people that were into punk music and stuff too, they were like, "Oh, Cajun music's great. Like we listen to Cajun music all the time, and it's 10 minutes from my house." And like all of a sudden I was in this scene, like, wow, okay, so playing Cajun music is fine. It's okay. I'm not a complete weirdo.
You know, Mitch and I both went to Lafayette High. I don't remember ever telling people I played Cajun music.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I moved to Louisiana, because it was young people playing
And so,
French music.
yeah,
you know?
and so now, you know, everybody, it's finally not a stigma. It seems like it's not, but I mean, it was really a kind of a funny, it's the exact same thing that my dad grew up with, that I was growing up with. But anyway, so I love a lot of different kinds of fiddle music. I love all of the different Cajun styles. I feel like I'm a master of nothing, but I like to dabble in a lot of things. But
Dude, you're the devil of the fiddle. You really are.
I was trying to think of something to play that would kind of maybe work well with everything else that's been going on. I wanted to play a Michael Doucet thing because Michael Doucet from Beausoleil was a huge influence for me, huge influence for Cedric, probably for y'all too. I mean, he's an amazing fiddle player. In fact, his son built both of my violins. But I love his playing, his intense creativity, and his technical ability on the instrument, and his improvisation. I mean, he's written a lot of really cool tunes. But maybe we'll do one of his tunes later or something. I don't know. I was gonna play that Napier, but I think
Yeah, that's a good one, dude. Play it.
I don't usually play the lead.
That's a badass song. Man.
It also wouldn't break any rules if you want to play it together.
I ain't playing nothing.
Can't break the
with
rules, Larry. There's so many rules here.
I'm sitting
I'll
out.
try to play this. This is a tune that Michael Doucet composed. It's called the Reel de Nez-Piqué, which is or the Nez Percé is another name for it. It's the Indians, the natives in Louisiana that had pierced noses. There's a tribe there, and he named it after them. And I learned this through Forrest Huval, who learned it kind of through Al Berard, who got it from Michael, I guess. But I don't usually play the lead. I usually back up Kel when we play it together. But I'll try to play it because I really like it. And yeah, Michael Doucet's freaking awesome. So. In fact, we should invite him to come to this next year. He would probably love this.
You would.
Here's an approximation of the Nez-Piqué. How much time do we have left? Do we have time to go all the way through?
We've got 20 minutes.
Oh, good.
Trying to go all through.
So I just thought one thing that's always really interesting to me in Louisiana is how many other influences that people that play Cajun music have. And Cajun music, if you know anything about it, Cajun music is the product of so many different influences. There's no such thing as a pure anything, really, but definitely no such thing as pure music or like a pure form of music. And Cajun music has always had so many influences coming in from all around. I mean,
It's syncretic culture.
yeah, there's a zillion things constantly bombarding all of us in our lives, so how can you not be influenced by other things? So I thought maybe what would be interesting to do would be to just ask people like other things, the fiddle players up here, other things that have helped that have influenced their style, like specifically like maybe something not Cajun that you hear or that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Darren,
for
you
me, my dad was from Texas. I lived most of my
Hell yeah,
life
baby.
in Lafayette, but my dad was from Texas, and my grandfather was a fiddle player. And growing up, going to these family reunions, we had live music. They play Western swing, and that's where I really got the drive to play fiddle. And so that's certainly been an influence on me. I like that. I think they're all related, honestly. I feel that almost everything I play is related in some way. I came up with a tune for a Filet album. I was in a band called Filet for years. And I came up with a tune in the studio. We needed an instrumental. And I made up this tune kind of on the spot. And then later I was playing it with David Greeley, and he said, "That's Fisher's hornpipe." I didn't realize that was Fisher's hornpipe, but that song was in the back of my head. The chord progression is the second part.
Typical Greeley.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, how does something like, so you're interested in Texas swing and stuff, like how do you incorporate that? Like, do you think about it? Like, how does that
I don't think about
influence
anything
your
when I play. You know, you practice at home and then you forget about it all and you play whatever comes out.
But do you feel like does improvisation, like, do you approach things differently because of that influence, or do you?
You know, it's not a conscious thing, you know. The older I get, well, let's put it this way, when I was younger, I wanted to change the music, you know. And as I get older, I want to preserve the music.
Yeah.
So as I get older now, my goal, even though I improvise everything, is to stay true to the melody and still improvise. That's way harder than just wigging out and playing jazz and stuff. You know, jazz is hard and it's challenging, and Western swing is jazz. So it's challenging, but it's difficult to stay true to a melody
Very true.
and still make it interesting each time you go through. And that's what I try to do is just like deviate a little bit, you know. And so it's not a conscious thing, but like, you know, I practice at home, and you know, I might break down a Johnny Gimbel solo.
This is a very important thing that a lot of people learning music, especially in the early stages, don't think about. But like, you want to have technical ability, right? So we want this connection between whatever we can think of. We want to be able to execute it on our instrument. You know, I want to be able to think of a note and know where it is on my instrument, and also have the technical ability to be able to play what I'm thinking of, so that I can create. But so we at home, some of us maybe practice things and are working on complex things. But then when we actually get to the gig and are making music with other people, a lot of that just goes out the window. And that's stuff these are like skills that we've worked on and that can call upon. But what it comes down to is like the act of working with other people, making music and playing what's appropriate at that time. You don't play everything you know all of the time. It's like,
you know, and as a matter of fact,
you don't play
I
at
can't
all.
play at all unless I'm with a band. Really,
Yeah.
I'm not a solo player.
I feel the same way.
And like when I get in a band situation, if everything's right, and the sound's good, and the drummer's good, and all that, I can play all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But when I'm just put on the spot like now, it's hard to think.
But this line, you know, it's like we practice all this ridiculous stuff, all these like scales or like weird chord things and stuff, or different keys that we may never use. But what we all love, I think I can speak for all of us, is actually making music with other people. So you want to be able to speak the language. You want to have a vocabulary that allows you to communicate
Not me.
as well as you can. Anyway,
No, but
But
I agree 100%.
we try to play what's appropriate. Do you want to play something else, or do you want?
Let me see if I could. So this is that tune. I don't think I've played it since I recorded it, maybe 3
Is
times.
Fisher's
something
Hornpipe?
like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is kind of like Fisher Hornpipe.
Well, the melody
yeah,
is it,
yeah,
but the
yeah.
chord changes are. That's what David was
Right.
bagging me on. The changes are.
David
exactly
Greeley,
the
ladies and
same.
gentlemen. David has also
Nothing
probably
gets
been a huge
better.
influence on all of us. David's a great Cajun fiddle player, and he's I know I've learned a whole lot from him, of just about technique, really. But Mitch, you want to talk about some of this stuff, like other?
Sure. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I one of the things that actually made me want to play fiddle. It was not Cajun music, even though earlier I was talking about that record, Dennis McGee's record. But when I was a kid, I grew up in this really interesting neighborhood in Lafayette. It was full of kids, and we had we had kids that played a lot of music, actually, a lot of rock and roll. And so my neighbors across the street had a rock and roll band, and there was this other kid that had played electric guitar in his house all day during the summer. And I had these I called them the nerd kids. They lived on another section of the neighborhood. And they would just stay in their house all day gaming. They had this one buddy of mine had an Apple IIe, and he played Wizardry like constantly. So I'd go hang out with all of them. But they gave me this game. They said, look, go play this game. So I had a Commodore 64, and it was called Ultima 4. And I bought a record at the same time. It was a record called, it was Kate Bush, The Hounds of Love. I don't know if any of y'all know that record. And there was a tune on there called The Jig of Life. And it was an Irish fiddler. It was this guy named Johnny Sheehan, who was the fiddler for the Dubliners. And he was just doing this riff. He was just going. The whole time she was singing, you know, and I was like, whoa, what is that? Is cool. That is so cool. So I was gaming too. So I was like in this fantasy world. So I'm like, and I'm a weird person. So they know me. They know that about me. But that's what made me actually want to play fiddle. So in a way, Irish music, I didn't even know what that was. I looked up the band. The band was that was like Donald Looney on bouzouki, and so I went and bought a Planksty record and started listening to Irish music. So and it got a mandolin, and I'm trying to learn jigs and reels on the mandolin. So really, I'm into Irish music before I'm into Cajun. And then my dad brings home the Dennis McGee record, and it's like it all came together because he was a McGee, but also he's playing reels, and there were little hints of Irish things in
For
there.
sure. A lot of trills and things.
Yeah, and I was trying to I remember at one point trying to explain that to, I had a good friend, Corey McCauley, and we'd go around, and I was like, man, that's Irish music. It's Cajun music, but the guy's a McGee. He's playing these reels, and so I was always.
But you know, Dennis swore that McGee was a French name because he didn't know any McGees that didn't speak French.
Right. That's right. That's it. But you know, it was interesting. There was a guy he was the principal of Mamu High, and his last name was Gann. He was Cajun. You know, he spoke French, but he had an Irish last name, Gann. And he did all this research, and he found that there was a huge migration of people from Virginia during the Spanish land grants, which have been like the late 1700s, you know. And they settled in an area called Lonsmeg. We call it Lonsmeg now, which is where my family was from.
Which is between Eunice and Mammoth.
Yeah, right
That's a
between
little
Eunice
bit.
and Mammoth. And there was a cemetery there called the Reed Cemetery. And if you go there, all the names were like Macaulay, McGee, Tanny Hill, Tate, Reed,
Wow.
you know, no French names at all. So it was this huge, so you could see right away, I mean, you don't have to be a researcher, you could see that there was this huge chunk of Scotch-Irish, Appalachian Scotch-Irish people that moved there. And then you start looking at the names of the great fiddlers, like the Balfours or the Balfours.
That's right, Scottish. Yeah.
Okay.
And the McGees and, you know, the
Reed.
Cheese Reed, you know, people like that. And they're playing this kind of Appalachian thing, you know. So anyway, I used to go around, you know, talking about that. And I think I pissed a lot of people off because they're like,
We French.
that's it.
Stop
That's
that. I don't know what you're talking about, you walk.
Cajuns are very protective about their music. And if you start trying to show them that actually it's this, you
I ain't
know.
gonna lie though, I don't hear no Irish at all on that stuff. I don't know what y'all talking about, trills and stuff.
Yeah.
That's just-
Yeah, well, just real
I
quick,
just-
I brought
I just don't
somebody
hear
to
Irish
see
at all in there.
Lionel Lelou one time, and I'd been knowing this song from Lionel called Blue Flame forever. I loved it, and I asked him to play Blue Flame for this gal, and he played it. She said, "Oh, that's Flop-Eared Mule." I had no idea,
Oh, wow.
but see,
Flop-Eared
like he
Mule.
was influenced in some way to play Flop-Eared Mule.
A lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
But
that's a
but
good
so
point. Yeah.
one thing that one of the things like you look at the Balfour style of fiddling and it's way smoother and it's like more kind of
That's
long
because they white though.
notes and stuff.
That's
Well,
all it is.
hey, but Dennis McGee was white, and Dennis I swear to God, he had the busiest hands in show business. I mean, every time he put his finger down, it was like some kind of like little trill
To
going
me, he
on.
sounds black.
Like cuts and
Dennis
trills.
McGee, I don't hear Irish
And
and
the
all
two
that
guys
stuff.
that I dig, part of the reason I like them is they're swingy
Like
with
my
their bow.
lead and shit.
Their bow is like really off the string.
Like that,
right,
that
very
old
impressive.
one-handed fiddle player that we met. Did you ever meet Roosevelt Richard? Did you meet that dude?
Yeah, he only had a
So
nub.
Roosevelt, he didn't have a bow hand. His hand got smashed off when he was robbing voting machines for one of the crooked politicians, and it fell in his hand.
Chopped his hand
But
off.
he'd wrap the bow around. He'd stick his hand between the stick and the hair and he'd play fiddle. And when we went to meet him, he was in Chautauqua, right by my house. We went to meet him and hang out with him, and we were playing like kind of Cajun, kind of the more modern, like Lafayette style Cajun music, the smoother style. And he was like, "Vous autres jouez simple." He said, "Y'all play simple." Because he was doing all those Dennis McGee,
Oh, like Dennis
style
McGee,
trills, all
yeah.
that like your finger. You never played it one note by itself for a long time. It was never like. It was always like.
Yeah.
There's always like little things going on. And so that, he played that exact Dennis McGee style, and his fingers were always moving. It was just like not just like long notes. But anyway, we're just about out of time. But would you play a little piece about Iris or something? That you
Yeah, and I wanted to say too, like the thing that's Dennis had many layers of sounds, and
For sure.
he was definitely had a very Creole.
To me, he
African-
sound black. I don't hear no Irish.
He did.
At all.
He did. He was very like if you
Looked
never
like
see
he was a
Dennis
lot
and
of
you'd
them.
hear maybe Canray or Douglas Bellard, he was part of that group. I mean, he sounded like a black fiddler. But there were things in, I guess because I studied so much Irish music, I could relate, I could hear things that he was doing that I had heard other, in Irish music or whatever. And then who knows, maybe I just wanted to hear that.
It's
It
true.
could have been
That's what
anything,
I think.
so.
I think the majority of white America
Do you
wants
have
to
one
hear
in particular
what
that-
they can relate it to.
Yeah.
But I don't hear no Irish and none of that stuff. It's
You
just,
hear what you want to
it's
hear.
just not.
Maybe you're only not
Well,
hearing
it's
yourself.
not square enough.
Turn,
You know, but the
Yeah.
trills I can understand, but then you hear
But
that
that
in many
combined with
cultures,
other
not just Irish
influences,
people.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'd say I could play. I'll play a Dennis one. Maybe that would maybe have an Irishy kind of thing to it.
Well, Cedric will be the judge of that.
Yeah.
No, who am I to say? I'm just telling you, I don't hear no Irish in that stuff. It's too different.
All right. So I'll play some reels. I'll do some reels.
There you go.
Word real, I guess.
That's the one I should have played.
That's American. That's not Irish. That's an American. You keep getting all the Europeans all the time. That's American. It's not Irish.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to feature Cedric Watson playing you an Irish song right
No,
now.
no. I know a couple of Irish tunes, but I can't play it like them because I'm not Irish. But check this out. I don't hear, whenever I hear American music, I hear American. I hear what made it in America. Because I've been around all these Irish Celtic festivals and everybody say like, this is Irish, that's Irish. I didn't heard them people play. That sounds American. That does not sound Irish.
The influence, it's not about sounding exactly like it.
I think
You guys-
that-
wasn't
like the part, like the
There you go.
That's Irish, yeah, but that's definitely not American. But that's not American, that's Irish, you know what I mean? But that stuff that they play, American music is American, man. You can't give the Europeans the credit for that stuff.
Play
It
some
don't
more.
exist. Yeah.
We're gonna just kind of quickly run
I'm gonna
through?
play y'all an Irish song. No.
Whatever you want, Lala.
Kind of like how people think that like blues is like Malian or whatever. To me, it doesn't sound Malian. It sounds like it comes from Mali in a way or whatever. But it sounds like black people and Native Americans had babies and made music.
Right.
It does not sound like African music. It's blues. It's American.
What you gonna play for us?
I'm gonna play a tune. Jeez, I'm trying to get off of this whole Irish thing. I'm gonna play a song called.
It's something you know, man.
Yeah, something I know exactly. Well, as far as like different influences and everything, I grew up on like Metallica and always like my aunts and my mom and them call it white folks music, but it was more like Twisted Sister and like Extreme and stuff like that. I heard a lot of that. But I also grew up on a lot of like Garth Brooks and heard a lot of old school country music and blues and R&B and things like that. Man, if you like to listen to my or go visit my family or whatever, you'll hear all kinds of music from all over the like everything. But then at the same time, being of African and Latino and also French and a little bit of Scottish descent and a lot of Native American, I have all these other influences from all the other things that are part of my whole like culture and genetic makeup. So I'm gonna play y'all a tune, an old time song. Get off the French for a little while.
That's an Irish.
Ain't Irish. First of all, I'm gonna tell you right now. Check this out. The scale of that song, all these little trills or whatever, it sounds like it could be Irish, right? Because Irish people, they're originally Celtic, right? Celtic people were originally people of the land. You go to any other cultures in the world, you're gonna hear them same trills and everything, but that scale is not Irish. That's straight up
It's
Native
Chinese.
American. That's a Native American scale.
That's Chinese, bro.
So there's no way that it's Irish. Well, you know what? If you go to Naples and listen to the way they
Pentatonic
play
scale.
fiddle,
It's Chinese.
same thing. But my point is, though, that scale is straight up Native American. That is an American song. That's not
Old-time
Irish.
American.
That's it. It's an old time American.
All right. Well,
That ain't Irish. I'm gonna fight to the end on that one because I can hear that Native American scale in there.
we're gonna move on to Kel just because we run out of time. But thank you, Cedric.
I'm American Nazi. I ain't letting it go no further than that.
Kel.
I'm just gonna play some Irish music.
I'm sorry.
Give us a little number, something, maybe some other kind of influences.
Okay, well, I mean, I definitely think I'm
I love this kind of stuff.
definitely influenced by old time music. I played it a lot growing up, but I don't play it that much anymore sometimes. But I think that definitely had a big influence on just the way I like hear fiddle and the way I hear melodies and the way I hear, or the way I bow for sure. I know Blake Miller has made fun of me before. Like, I always, he says I always pick the tunes to learn that sound like old time tunes. He's like, you just like that song because it sounds like an old time tune. But I never think of it that way.
Well, next time he says that, tell him to stop putting his little finger
Oh,
up.
yeah. Go, yeah.
Really?
But, I don't know. No, he fought me on it.
Let's play some. Gonna play the whole thing?
Can we split that together? Okay, I'll play, I guess, a little old time tune.
Nice.
All right, well, I'm gonna play an Irish song.
Somebody gotta play the Irish song.
I don't actually play a lot of Irish music, but I have been exposed to a whole lot of different kinds of music my entire life, and I don't have the technique that it requires to play Irish music, but I do love.
You're American.
I'm French.
Well, still, French American shit.
No, but I do have a handful of Irish tunes that I really like that are kind of obscure, but it's, I guess, a ridiculous way to wrap this up. This is a song that I got when I was 17. Instead of going on my class senior trip, I went to Ireland and spent some time at the Milltown Mall Bay Festival and kind of went around Europe a little bit. But I got this from a great little player named Declan Foley. It's called Over the Broken Bridge.
That's about as Irish, I guess, when you did. I make a try to say something more, I think you'll find it interesting. Okay, so I'm not trying to be like how he said, how them local people down there were about like, nah, boy, quit saying Irish, that's French and all this. But look at this. People got to understand that Celtic culture does not narrow down to just Scottish and Irish people. You go to Spain and you go to in France. So watch this. People in Louisiana, no matter what, they're predominantly going to be French or Spanish descent. So that Celtic influence could be coming from their ancestors that was from a certain part of France. It's not from Ireland. It's Scotland. These people here are French people.
Irish
Well, they're Irish descent, but they assimilated and mixed, just like Acadians. I know Acadian people. I didn't spend much time up there. Them people in Louisiana are a whole nother breed of French folks. They're Creoles, whether they're white or black. Quit listening to all this black Creole and white Cajun. They're all Creole people that's been living around each other for a long time.
I do agree with that.
And their ancestors were Celtic too, from France and Spain.
I do agree with that.
I want to say thank you to all of these folks for our Fiddle Showcase. And I want to give you a few schedule highlights. Joelle's teaching a fiddle workshop here in about 10 minutes. Cedric's teaching a fiddle workshop upstairs later this afternoon. Cedric and Mitch are playing fiddle together in the tavern this evening. Kelly and Joelle are playing fiddle together in the tavern this evening. And there's a jam that started in the backyard right now. So there's lots more opportunities to hear a lot of Cajun music. The accordion takes front and center, but in traditional, there is like a world before accordion where the fiddle was front and center and felt really important to us here at Swanman City to make sure we showcase some of that and gave space for the fiddles to shine. So thank you all so much.
Good talk.
That's one thing I thought about doing in the past. Like a lot of the stuff is like, I'm not gonna work like maybe this and about
I think Michael's right.
After you said that,
Here I am in New York City. It's so funny.
I was just gonna let that one slide.
I didn't get that. Right, he was hearing that in your.
Oh, yeah? Let me figure all this out right now while you're here. Let me ask, because I know I have another thing going on at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, so
I'm doing stuff later. You know your schedule. You know when you're going back.
that's the thing I'm going to figure out, and I'm going to call you, and then I'll be able to. I'll definitely like research everything and ask around everything about the schedule. So you know when you're next like hour. Yeah, that would be nice though to meet Bella Rosa. Dude, that'd be sweet. Yeah.
I have a schedule.
Maybe before you should. That sounds good, dude. That sounds nice. What happened to Mr. Nicola?
He's back from the DR.
Oh yeah.
He gives us on
I know.
I noticed every time I talk to you, it seems like you're back in the DR.
I'm on stage right now. I'm at a festival.
Oh, sorry.
I'm at a festival. I'm playing. I got my fiddle. I'm at this Cajun festival.
Just wanted to mention it.
Yeah.
Are you doing recording?
Yeah, I'm gonna come talk to you. Yeah, we're at this Cajun festival. It's in New York City.
Can I hand you some chairs?
Yeah, so that's where I am right now. Look.
Once you say your guitar down, can I hand you some chairs? Yeah, absolutely.
Stage. Yeah. So, but I tell you what, I'll call you. I'm gonna be busy today, but I'll call you back when we get home. We'll be back. Well, Monday I'll be back. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I'm in New York City.
I think that's fun. We're gonna see how many people show up for this workshop, and then we'll make some decisions about whether we want more chairs.
What's that?
So you're here for the class?
We're going to see the Statue of
Yeah.
Liberty.
Okay. Just checking. Are any of us sitting around?
Yeah, sit down. Oh, yeah. Okay, love you too. I better go because I got it.
I'm really trying to make sure I have enough chairs. I'm trying to get it
Next time
down.
y'all when we get over.
You're taking more chairs.
No, she's not here. They went to go see the Statue of Liberty. Okay. All right, love y'all too. Y'all take care. Bye. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. Dude, it's been a great meeting you. Seeing you again. I know. Let me know, man. And you know, we'll just see what, like, we'll figure out what we know. How far, like, how far would we be from each other? I'm like 17 minutes north of Portland. Oh, okay.
It's a drive, but
Yeah.
you know, but like if we were to you can stay
You know Pam and like John, so you know that those guys there, yeah. Yeah. They could just like all come together or something, you know.
We'll be
Like
sure
Jen's
to
house,
post
like Jen's cool, so he's got all the land out there and stuff.
Yeah, I haven't been to his house, but I've been to his house.
Yeah. But
But so like this is when I used to work, well, I get around to where kids at.
I am. but not much. I mean, I'm really right between Bath and Portland. Really. Yeah, it's a great area. That sounds so good.
I used to go up there to Booth Bay.
Oh, okay. Oh, come on.
Yeah,
I gotta get
I just want to let you know,
I would love to go.
It's late at 9 p.m. It's just wild.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to head home.
That's what's asking. So,
But thanks for letting me know about
I was wondering if I could ask you.
Wait, is that,
We're starting up for.
hey Bob, are you talking about Tony DeMarco thing?
Oh, also you're supposed to
Where am I?
fiddle with Jesse and Beck.
Right now? Yeah, I figured that.
I mean,
Okay.
if you're
How do you get to the
pee
back
or
now?
you go outside of through the tavern,
Oh,
it's
through-
all
okay.
good.
I'll head that way.
I know I don't have to tell you you can stop and talk to somebody, because if I do, then it'll be like the jam will be over.
I know, I'm so bad about that. I'm so sorry. No, I need somebody like you telling me, yank me by the shirt.
okay.
Try.
So we'll see you soon.
Byron, this starts now.
Sounds like I actually don't. I just have my
How long
phone
does
on.
it go for?
You have it 1 hour. Theoretically, you're 1:45, 2:45 to 3:45, and the next thing is Desiree's rhythm workshop in here at 4. So
When Desiree shows up,
is the firm stop.
I don't have anything till
Occupied, that's your next thing.
7:30.
7:30. Thank you so much. You did a great job. It is it's still one of my favorite things.
I can come any closer.
Do you know who's set to this was?
This is the entire turnout. We got a nice
Cedric's gonna come teach us some Irish, we can just set
Irish Cajun music.
Sure. So, yeah, my name's Joel. I'm gonna teach y'all some Cajun fiddle. What, I guess, why don't we figure out what to do? Maybe if y'all would introduce yourselves and tell me your background in fiddling, or what you're interested in learning. Start with you.
My name's Evan. I've only been playing fiddle for a couple of years, but I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I'm learning really fast.
Good.
And I have
Happy Brad.
never played Cajun or Creole music before, except for the guitar workshop upstairs, which was mostly a history lesson.
Cool.
Yeah. I've heard it though.
Right. Okay.
I have been, Chuck is my name, and playing fiddle for, I'd like to say a few years. Depending on how it sounds. Probably been longer than that, but I also play a bunch of other instruments. Came to it through probably bluegrass, old time, and western swing, a bunch of different styles. And heard you all at the Old Tones Festival last September, and was just smitten by it. I mean, I heard Beau Soleil, but otherwise, you know,
Yeah.
Cajun stuff was kind of on the periphery, and now I'm just
Awesome.
so new to it, but
Great.
enjoy it.
I'm Michael. Violist by training, but not really much of anything. I play fiddle music in Gowanus and some of the other neighborhoods around here. It's jams. It's not my day job, so trying to keep it as tight as I can.
I'm Amy, super beginner, so I might be listening when I'm playing, but that's alright.
That's totally fine. I think I know what we're gonna do. You're tuned down. Y'all are tuned standard, the rest of you?
No, wait,
I think I'm
Same
tuned
class,
standard.
you're tuned down, so.
You're down also, I think.
Like,
Last time I tuned, I was tuned standard.
Okay, does anybody care about retuning? Is that fine with everybody?
I'll be okay.
Let's do this. Let's all, so if you're tuned down, I want you to bring your 2 low strings up a whole step each. So we're gonna cross tune it. It's gonna allow us to have fun with it.
We're gonna do A, E, A, E.
We're gonna G, D, G, D, so it's down, it's crossed down.
Oh, okay.
So your low string's gonna sound like this, which is a standard G. Right? And then your D string's gonna sound like a D. string sound like this. Next string sounds like this. Next string sounds like the low string except an octave up. High string sounds like the D string but an octave up. Cool. Close enough for what we're doing here. So this is called cross tuning, and what's happening is you have, if we think about the instrument as pairs, then we have a low pair that's G and D, and then we have a high pair that's G and D. So essentially anything we play on the low pair, you can just copy. Exact same fingering over here, it's the exact same thing, just an octave higher. It's really fun. A lot of old time music uses this tuning, and a lot of early Cajun fiddle music uses this tuning. And I still love to play it because the instrument becomes very resonant. You can do this AE also, which is called cross up. This is cross down, because we're a whole step lower than normal.
Is there dead man's tuning for Cajun as well?
What is dead man's tuning?
Drop this all the way down like a one full octave, so it's.
Oh yeah, I like that
Ds.
tuning a lot. Yeah, that's fun too.
Drop the whole instrument an octave?
The
low
bottom
string.
octave, yeah. So it sounds like bagpipes, like Midnight on the Water is playing that for the parts of Creed.
Does it get like really loose and buzzy?
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, you get really much lower. And
Yeah.
It's cool animals too. So I'm going to teach you while we're talking about Irish. While we're talking about Dennis McGee, there's a whole lot we can learn from this one tune. And it's great to me. It's a great like intro to Cajun fiddling. It's called the Happy One Seventh tune that Dennis McGee recorded in 1927, I think, or maybe 28. He played it in this tuning, and there's two parts. It's an A part and a B part. There's also a fun backup part, but it's this very trancy, like really fun to play. It teaches us some technical stuff, but it also helps us develop a feel for syncopation. And if you're not familiar with syncopation, what that is, it's so if the song has this kind of beat, a syncopated beat would be a beat that falls not on one of these taps. So dun 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 dun, like kind of pushing against that rhythm. And a lot of Cajun music, a huge part of what makes Cajun music so cool is the syncopation, which comes from the African American influence in our music, and probably from a lot of the Caribbean cultures in our area. But that's what makes the music sound different, for instance, from other accordion music like French Canadian music, or German music, or Irish music, or any of that stuff. So just exploring a really simple melody like I'm going to show you will allow us to kind of work on feeling that push against the very square standard like beat. The melody kind of fights against that, but it puts you in this really fun, trancy place. Sorry, I'm not trying to sound like a hippie. You'll hear when I start playing it, it's just a very kind of trancy guy. So this is called the Happy One Step. I'll just play it for you in a minute. If you have I don't know what your background in learning music is, but to me, the best way to learn music is to just hear it a few times. I like to close my eyes and imagine myself playing it when I'm listening to music. I like to imagine it's me making those notes and I like to start to know the melody. My dad says if you don't know how to spell the word, don't buy a typewriter. Learn how the melody goes before you start trying to play it. And music is not a visual thing. We don't need to be watching each other, right? The whole point is to connect this to a sound, our brain to a sound. So that's what we're going to do. So before I play it for you, I just want to show you two things that we're going to be using, two like shapes that we're going to be using for this song. There are three actually. Just so you know, so you can picture yourself playing this while I'm playing, okay? So let's just hear everybody blow your high pair. What's really cool is you're going to hear your low strings ringing sympathetically because they're tuned the same, so it makes the instrument sound really, really awesome. Okay, so when we're on the middle pair for this song, almost all of the time, I mean, when we're noting the A string, we're going to be using this finger and this finger, these two fingers. So we're going to be playing what would normally be the C sharp note and normally be the unison. So everybody find this note with your middle finger. Okay, and now play that against the open E string, the high string. Okay, now put your pinky above that on the same string and make it sound like the high string. That's called a unison. Okay, so do this. We're going to start out bowing the open pair. Then the first one we just did, the C sharp, or it's the B here. But, and then the unison. Everybody do that. Okay, so keep that in mind. The next sound that I want you to focus on is this. So it's almost the opposite. Now we're using these two fingers. So this note, open E. We're just going to call it open E even though it's a D. First finger on the air sharp. Third finger on what would normally be an A note. So, okay? Alright, so keep that in mind. Close your eyes and just listen to the tune for a minute. Shapes that we're using, we started out working on this guy, right? That's the first time you hear it. The other one was this. So think about those. Imagine yourself making those sounds. First part of the tune. Let's work on that for a while, and then I'll teach you the B part. But it's really straightforward. There's a couple little bow things that we're gonna dial in. But so we're in cross tuning. So we're G D G D. So your low string should sound like this. And then D. So this is a Dennis McGee tune we're going to learn. It's called a Happy One Step. And we're using two kind of distinct intervals. When we're noting the A string, we're using our middle finger and our pinky to play against the open string, open E string. So these two, so on that string, it's these two fingers. We're using those two guys on the A string. So 0, 2, 4. And when we're on the high string, we're going to use open 1, 3. Okay? Yeah, exactly. So our melody, let's start out just trying to get this rhythm. What's happening? We're doing against this. Right? So let's just play it against this against the meter. Feel that syncopation of that last note. Let's use those exactly. Let's use the high string now. So now we're using 0, 1, 3. there's a couple little connectors we need to know. And I'm going to show you the rhythm part for the first part before we start working on the B part. And we can all work on just getting that syncopation down. So now that we've just done it, let me just play it for you so you can all hear the melody just a little bit more. Burn it in. So what you hear now is a couple. I'm doing a couple connectors to get between the parts. So I'm doing. So it's the same thing we've been working on. Connectors we want to work out. The first one is first of all we play. Now repeat after me. 2, 1, 2, 3. Great. So now we're going to play. Starting on our first finger. Yeah. We play with the open A string so we keep that resonance happening all over. Nice. Okay. So our first entire phrase is. Our next connector is now we're going to get our pinky involved. We're going to go down. So start on the E string. We're using our pinky on the E string. The next note in the scale is this note. And then back to the first finger. Okay, and so where that open string happens is the same note as this note. Right? So it's the same note as. So think about this phrase. Okay? And so listen for when we come back up. So the end of that connector is. It's just the reason I'm being specific about it is because we're bowing both strings. I want you to get a feel for what the melody is because we're going to be. The melody gets obscured by the other droning strings. So what we're playing is the last three notes are A, C sharp, E, if we're using standard. Okay, so the whole phrase is. 4, 3, 1, open. The last three notes are open 2, 4. Yeah. Okay, so up to there, this is what we have so far. And then we're going to work on kind of getting a feel for that. The ending is so. The ending is on single strings. It's so first of all, just play those three. 2, 1, open. last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna play our unison. Since we're crossing, our unison now is that's 2 to 3 on the D string. On the D string, play this. Find this note on the D string with your middle finger, and then right next to it is the unison. So play that with the open A string. Just hear them together. So let's play that with a downstroke, and then on an upstroke, play the open high pair. So it's going to sound like this. So we're only noting these two fingers, 2 to 3 against the open A string, and then we're bowing the high pair open. Good. Okay, so the way that fits into the song is like this. Listen. You hear how that's fitting in? Okay, let's split that in half again. Everybody just repeat this after me. Let's do it at a time. So. Okay, the next phrase is this. So the last two bow strokes are, we're doing this on a down bow, on the middle pair of strings. And then the up bow on the high pair open. That's going to allow us to come back in on a down beat for the next piece. Okay, so here's how it goes.